Alright. So.
Okay. Well, Dr. King was my commencement speaker when I graduated from college.
You know what that means?
No.
What's a commencement speaker, Grandpa Henri?
Oh, my graduation speaker.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. What did he say? Do you remember anything from what he said?
Well, he talked about leadership and sacrifice and civil rights, the things that we had to continue to do because it was not going to stay in place. It would change from time to time, and as a matter of fact, it has changed substantially since then. Even now, a lot of things are happening that we thought we had resolved back then in the 50s.
Like what?
Well, that we'd have rights to do the things that everybody else did.
Mm-hmm.
That we assumed that Americans had the right to do.
Mm-hmm.
That was an assumption that wasn't exactly right, because even now we're having some of the similar problems that we had back then. And even now the president is talking about the countries where people of color, and especially black people, talking about Africa, the immigrants from Africa and so forth, he doesn't want them coming here. And so we thought all of those issues were resolved, that we'd have the same freedom that other immigrants have. And the truth is, we're all immigrants because we came from someplace else. We're not Indians, and we're not, what do we call them?
Native Americans?
We're not Native Americans, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so, when we talk about immigrants, we're talking about everybody, almost except Native Americans.
Yeah.
Anyway, I marched with Martin Luther King in Chicago and was the chairman of a rally where he spoke, and I introduced him in Gage Park in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
I was the chairman. I was the MC for the rally.
Oh my goodness. What year was that?
And he was the speaker. I don't know. That was in the 60s.
What year did you graduate college?
58.
Oh, okay.
So that was I don't know. I don't remember what year it was.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I knew him, however, very well. And then, of course, as you know, he lived in Chicago for a while on the west side. And so I had opportunity to interact with Martin Luther King and with the movement. And so that's probably the extent of it, I guess.
What do you remember most about him as a person? Do you have any specific memories of him as a man?
Well, he was a very gentle, he was a regular person. He was easy to relate to and to talk to. And we had good conversations about the activities and about the rules. As a matter of fact, one of the big issues was the voting rights. And so we had opportunity to really go into a great detail and discussions about the right to vote. As a matter of fact, you may have never heard of it, Becky, and we had to pay what was called a poll tax.
Oh yeah, I've heard of it, but Aliya probably hasn't.
What's that?
Well, a poll tax was you had to pay a fee and get a certificate in order to be able to vote. And if you couldn't afford the certificate, you couldn't vote. You had to pay in order to be able to vote.
And was that for everyone or just for people of color?
No, that was just for people of color who were not welcome to vote. And so a lot of people didn't vote because they couldn't afford the poll tax, even though it didn't cost a lot of money, but we didn't have a lot of money either. And so that was an issue. And the 1965 Voting Rights Act, Voting Rights Bill, was one of the things that we concentrated on and talked a lot about, getting up to that point.
1965?
Yes.
Yeah. I remember my U.S. history.
Oh, you. And of course, I believe Lyndon Johnson was the president, and of course he signed the bill, but he was very helpful in getting it together and encouraging what Martin Luther King was doing. And so those were the kind of things that we talked about and dealt with.
Do you remember where you were when you found out that he had been assassinated?
Yeah, I was at school.
At law school?
No. I was working. I was teaching then. I was at school.
Oh, you were working as a teacher. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And how did someone come into the classroom and tell you, or did you get notified on your cell phone? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was announced at school.
Okay.
It was an evening session that we had some activity going on. So, but it did occur while I was at school.
And did you know his wife and children?
Yeah, I knew his wife.
Yeah.
And of course, I knew the children not nearly as close as I did Martin Luther King himself and his wife.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest advances for Black people that you see in your lifetime?
Well, one of the big issues at that time was segregation and being able to have access to facilities. We still had signs that said whites only, or a drinking fountain that said for color. That sort of thing. And you had to go to the back of the bus.
And do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I remember that all too well, as a matter of fact. Because I was a participant, a passenger many, many times when you had to go to the back of the bus. And of course, I used to walk 10 miles to school.
Oh, wow.
And the school bus the white school bus, and we didn't have a school bus for black kids. We called them, at that time, we were colored.
Mm-hmm.
The school bus would pass us with a lot of vacant seats.
Oh my goodness.
And they wouldn't let us ride the school bus. And not because it was overcrowded either.
Mm-hmm.
and so we would be a lot of times tired, raining, snow, and all of that. We didn't have the advantage to get on the bus.
Was that in Arkansas?
Yeah, that was in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
But it was in most southern states, however.
Right.
So it wasn't limited to Arkansas or Mississippi and Alabama
Right.
and Georgia. Those were southern states. Those were called the states below the Mason-Dixon line.
Mm-hmm.
And the Mason-Dixon line was an imaginary line that divided the South from the North. That's what it was supposed to do, even though it was not really situated like that. I mean, in reality.
What year did you come to Chicago?
About 61 or 2, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So you met
Yeah.
Dr. King in Arkansas.
Yeah, I met him in Arkansas.
Uh-huh.
Matter of fact, he was on campus. I guess for a couple of days, or at least a day and a night. A couple of days, yeah.
61.
And I interacted with him because I was president of student body at that time.
Mm.
And so we had initiated the invitation or the request to get him to do our commencement address.
Hmm. And what made you come to Chicago in 1961?
To school.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well anyway, listen, I see my battery is low. I guess we might get cut off.
Okay, well this is good. We appreciate hearing some of the first-hand accounts.
Okay.
We'll share the video with the family.
Yes, okay. Aliya, you're looking mighty pretty.
Thank you.
Are you looking pretty handsome?
Okay, so I'll talk to y'all later.
Okay, we love you.
Okay, love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.